So the game gives us a really brief intro, but it doesn't explain very well what exactly is going on, what our place is in the world, and what we're doing here. It says that the United Nations split up into two big powers. But the reason they did this is because megacorporations had begun to take over all of the world's governments. So they had to band together just to survive.
Roger, firing.
And the two megapowers, the GSA and Gondwana, managed to eliminate most of the megacorporations, save for one, being IHS. Now, Gondwana and the GSA are at the brink of war with each other over resources. But neither of them like IHS very much. That's something they can both agree on. And neither of them like terrorists either. We're a private military contractor, which basically means we're a hired gun, but part of a larger network. We've worked for both sides at some point, but we don't know which one we're working for right now, or what they want with IHS. In summary, megacorporations made the United Nations afraid, so they banded into two separate megapowers. And neither of them like IHS. We're still not done seeing these things yet.
Got some volcanic activity here.
Watch your ass.
I'll watch your ass. It's nicer.
It's true. This is the culo that launched 1,000 ships.
So we're supposed to sympathize with Pierce and Velasco because they're not getting their revenge on Al Azrod. For context, the reason the mission last time was botched, as the intro put it, is because Al Azrod basically slaughtered all of their teammates. And only Pierce and Velasco are left. Now you figure that would make it easy to sympathize with their quest for revenge. But as you've seen so far, all they really talk about is sex and murder. Makes it kinda hard to get into their shoes. I can't tell you for sure whether the political climate that this developer has created makes any sense, because what I described is as specific as it gets. How it gets there precisely is very vague. So that's up to you.
Firing.
I never really understood why the guys with shotguns are less heavily armored. Are they just considered less valuable? When you get that suit when you sign up for work, do you know which team you're on? Do you know where you stand in the pecking order? We pick back up the shotgun, and we're going to use it as much as we can, because we're not going to have it for much longer. I really like it, but we can only carry two main weapons, and necessity requires that we get rid of it pretty soon.
Copy that. Going hot.
So whoever we're working for clearly has suspicions that IHS is doing some weird shit. They think there are prototype weapons here and there's some kind of fuel converter. Granted, we already blew up the fuel converter. But whoever we're working for is still paying us to find out what the hell the rest is about, if there's anything at all.
Roger that. Cleared hot.
Presumably they have a reason to be suspicious of IHS. It can actually be really troublesome here if both of those guys up there fire on you at once. Luckily they fired irregularly this time and not at the same time. I think a common complaint about this game is that there's no love put into the environment. But I say... Oh, hold on. The purpose of those guys is that they run straight for us no matter what and activate a QuickTime event. That's their whole purpose. So this room is actually kind of neat. We need to stay close to this crate right here because we're being shot from both our left side and in front of us at the same time. And if we aren't close enough to this crate, we'll get shot in the head by the guy to our left. There's also a manned turret back there. It's really easy to take out, though. Not the turret itself, just the guy in the turret. But yes, I think a common complaint was that there's no love put into the environment, but I disagree. Just because the environment looks bland does not mean there was no detail put into it, it's just the detail bores you. We don't have time to get rid of that other explosive barrel before we get in the turret because enemies immediately start shooting at us. Now getting into a turret basically just gives us more health. Technically it gives us a shield, but really just gives us more health. This is one of the easier turret sections because they're all basically just coming from one direction. They did appropriately balance the turret, so using it is much easier than using cover. They could have easily messed that up, but they didn't.
Weapons free.
There are a couple rooms with only 1 or 2 enemies in them, and I'm honestly not sure what they're for. They're a little weird. If you're wondering what that weird transition is, it's because I'm cutting out the loading screens. So if any of the transitions feel weird, it's just because the game relies on its loading screens as part of the transition.
Analyze the drone. It's the Vulcan engineering drone, developed by IHS.
I'm still cutting out the loading screens, though. We could shoot the engineering drones, but they don't do anything to us. I actually managed to shoot those mines before they got to us. I'm kind of proud of myself. We have to use our jetpack to push past this current here. They don't tell you that, but you can figure it out for yourself easily enough. I don't know if these guys have radios or whatever. Presumably they have some way to communicate with each other. You figured they would issue a warning not to stand out near large open bodies of water, because there's some psycho grappling them with a harpoon and dragging them to their death. I tried to use the explosive barrels to kill this guy like last time. It was way too late, though. So there's a brief second when we reload that our head sticks above cover. I'm not sure if that's intentional, but we still take damage when that happens. I'm gonna give the game the benefit of the doubt and say that's intentional. We needed to clear out those explosive barrels, because once we move over here, we see there's a manned turret up there that could have easily exploded them while we were sitting here, and it would have killed us. Like I said, I do kinda enjoy that the game does that. It doesn't do it very often, but it still does it. As soon as we round the corner over here, a guy's gonna charge right at us. There he is.
Fire at will.
Now, if we run too far, we'll put ourselves in the line of fire right as he triggers the QTE, and that would be very bad. I want to know who recorded those screams. They're pretty good. I promise I will try to repeat myself, lest then the game repeats itself. So when the enemies switch from one spot of cover to another, they fire as they move, to make it harder for us to shoot them while they're supposedly vulnerable. Now, that suppressive fire doesn't really work, but it's neat that they do it anyway. This part can be a little tough just because of the sheer volume of enemies. If we take them out quickly enough, though, we won't have to worry too much. But yeah, having 2 guys with assault rifles, submachine guns shooting at you once in any situation drains your health pretty fast. And there were 2 of them right next to each other there for a second. There's still 2 more that have yet to come out, but they only come out when we get super close to them. So at that point, it's nearly too late to find cover. Not that we need it anyway. We can take them both out pretty quickly. Considering one of them just runs right at us.
Lieutenant, your mission's been updated.
General, with all due respect...
Search the IHS labs. We have intel that suggests they're working on a prototype weapon. Secure all such ordnance.
Sir, you still haven't...
Those are your orders.
Damn, this is...
They're not really good at sounding frustrated.
There's a turret up ahead. Take it out.
They seem to have issue with the frustration, in particular, when they act.
Weapon 3.
So this auto turret has 2 guns, making it twice as deadly. That's about it. That's its entire function, is that it's twice as deadly as a normal turret. Still very vulnerable to bullets.
Copy that. Firing.
They really try to surprise you with new enemies as you move forward. In case you haven't guessed by now, there's always more enemies than you think there would be. The game's kind of mean like that, especially on harder difficulties, where you have to stutter, be fearful for your life because you don't want to start from the checkpoint 10 minutes ago. I know I just said I wouldn't repeat myself so much, but here's yet another place where we have to raise the water to get further. I mean, it's kind of a fun gimmick, but they pull it a whole lot. There will be more underwater combat later. There's so little of it in the beginning that you might think there might never be any at all. But it does get a little more numerous. So the engineers, like I said, just become weird and attack us on sight. It's very strange.
Firing on the target.
Because they implied we wouldn't have to kill them, but they run right up at us and try and stab us or beat us with their tools. They function the same way as the stealth operatives. Those highly trained stealth operatives. They're exactly as useful as those guys. Here's another single turret, and it's kind of close, but we've already dealt with this situation before. And in a much less desirable position, too. So this is nothing new or hard. It was funny that that guy walked in there just to get blowed up, though. Well, it's time to say goodbye to our shotgun for pretty much the entire rest of the game.
Push that button to start the testing sequence.
Confirmed.
Before we go get our new toy, let's see what kind of magazines these guys read. Ah yes, science. And they drink what appears to say Super Cola, but I can't make it out. This room is where the game starts to get really difficult.
Found a new prototype.
More so than anything
Let's
previous.
test its capabilities.
So the stun gun, which is what we just got, kills most robotic or mechanical things in just 3 shots. Including these auto turrets. So that's handy. It kills most regular enemies in 2 shots, but it can be hard to aim because it's kinda slow. Better used on mechanical enemies, really. It does stun them for a brief period, like the name would imply, but it's only for a second or so. This area can be tough because there are stairs to our right and left side, and if we don't constantly fire at the enemies, they will run up here and try and stab us, and there are so many enemies down there that they'll shoot us dead while we're doing the QTE. I try really hard to make use of the stun gun on the regular guys here, but normally you would just use the submachine gun. Now the reason we gave up our shotgun and kept the submachine gun is because we need weapons that we can use underwater. And while we can use the stun gun underwater, it doesn't have very much ammunition. So that leaves us with the submachine gun for underwater combat. We don't want to go straight to our objective marker because guys pour out of the back here.
Engaging hostile.
Or the front, I guess. It depends on your point of view. But we don't want to run straight toward the objective marker is what I'm saying, because they'll flank us and we'll die. Sometimes it seems like there's more than just a couple, but sometimes there's only a couple. I don't know if that's my imagination or not.
Firing.
Yes, there was a transition there, and that is because I died in an embarrassing fashion and I cut that out.
Firing.
But now I can show you the AI completely goofing up. It has no idea what to do even though I'm standing right next to it. So this particular hallway is full of enemies that try to charge at you. And normally that's difficult, but because the AI just completely screwed up, I managed to kill them all in a row without problem. It's both really funny and really creepy watching an AI mess up. It gets confused. There's a guy up there with a stun gun that fires at us once and then quickly runs away. I just always thought that was funny. I mean, it's a smart move to retreat back where there's more cover and you have more backup. But enemies do that so rarely. Normally they advance straight toward you. Having the high ground is generally a good thing. Lets us see the enemies much easier, and sometimes even shoot them while they're still behind cover. The enemies with the stun guns do way more damage than the other foes, but their shots also go slowly, just like ours do. And sometimes they miss entirely. So you might think there's a guy over here like there was before, but no, there's a turret. The door just opens and the turret begins firing at you. I suppose that's a good way to make it more effective. I'm not sure whether it's intended to catch you by surprise, though. Again, I'll give the game the benefit of the doubt and say it was. 3 shots from our stun gun and the turret blows up too. Again, that transition was already there. There was just a loading screen I cut out. We want to stay on the sides on the elevator because the gun starts shooting at us while we're still on it. Also, we want to scoot to the left a bit because our head is exposed right here. And that's the default position he takes cover in. Now there's an area to our left that enemies could run up to if we didn't kill them first. But I already got the guy that would do that. So that's not a worry.
Colonel, I've got a sit rep.
Receiving.
This prototype weapon, it's a handheld stun gun, some type of short-range EMP.
Sounds impressive.
Also got a data disk. No way to transmit the data, though.
Find a comm center and try to extract the data and upload it via the IHS satellite web.
Moving out.
Now, I don't claim to know a whole lot about this data transfer business, but shouldn't we not upload the data we're trying to steal via their own network? Wouldn't they have procedures in place to stop that? Also, these are basically mobile turrets. They're actually pretty difficult to deal with. They can kill you very quickly. Stun gun is the best solution. I feel like their network should have a password at the very least, or something like that. You know the drill. 3 hits from our stun gun. Easy stuff.
Get to the comm center and transmit that data.
Roger that, Colonel.
This is not one of the times where we get to stay underwater for a bit. We're going to be on ground again in like 10 seconds. I apologize if you thought that was happening.
Use the harpoon to hit them from underwater.
Affirmative.
I'm not sure why she tells you that, like we forgot or something. I don't know, maybe you took like a week break halfway through this mission. I could understand that. Just need a little time away from Deep Black. Now we get to stay underwater for a little bit. And hey, I killed one of those before they grappled us, and we had to do that one quick time event again. I bet you're glad about that. Up here, there are a lot of things we need to shoot. And again, our stun gun can shoot underwater, but it doesn't have very much ammo, which is why we had to drop the shotgun and keep the submachine gun. We just keep our reticle pointed in the general direction of the enemy until they pop up, and then it auto-locks. It only does that underwater, though. Now, there are a couple mines up here that could really mess us up if they hit us at the same time, but our stun gun does something pretty amazing to them. One shot and they're gone. No more dealing with those. Unfortunately, I was not quick enough to kill this eel. So we have to do this one quick time event again. There must be an awful lot of underwater infiltration for them to have so many people underwater. That's not like a jab at the game or anything. That might just be part of this game's world that's not fully explored. The first act of this game really stretches on. We spend a whole lot of time in this one location, like a whole 2 hours here. Hopefully just an hour and a half for you guys. The explosive barrels behind this guy don't hurt him for some reason. I think they might be broken, but they don't do anything to him. And for some reason this guy decided to stand out in the open instead of take cover anywhere. I don't know if he knew that the railing was not cover, but it's not. Someone forgot to program the keypads, so we just press buttons on it and it opens. Presumably Pierce doesn't know the password, but just smashing buttons seems to work. I love the way the engineers waddle. Like they're actually going to be able to do something to us. This room up here is a trap, don't walk into it. There's a turret right in the middle waiting for you, and you will die. Of course, since we know it's there, it's no threat anymore.
Roger, firing. Data transmission complete.
Received.
What do we got?
Well, it doesn't add up. IHS is definitely running this operation. Question is, why here? This close to the Gondwana border? They risk being discovered. Why not set up their research lab in a more remote area?
So what are they working on?
Some kind of new weapon system. Very dangerous.
Damn it, another murder machine.
IHS launched a submarine called the Dagon. The analysts are scouring the files for more information. Get to the pier for extraction.
On my way.
So what that cutscene was meant to tell us is that their weapon is somehow related to the submarine, the Dagon. It didn't come across that way. It came across as her mentioning a super weapon and then never bringing it up, and then randomly switching to a topic about a submarine. But what they wanted to tell you was that the weapon was related to the submarine somehow. As long as you understand that, you're still following the story just fine. I feel like they put some significant work into the story and world, but it's all really messed up. You have to work hard to decipher it, and not in a good way. But that's what I'm here for, I guess. I like this room up here. It's just one really big room that we slowly explore different sections of. It's actually pretty cool. I dig it. It all revolves around a turret in the center.
Connect that bridge with the opposite ledge.
It's impossible to get to the bridge before it changes direction. You might have figured that yourself, though. I like this turret section because the enemies split up into 3 different areas. So it's not as straightforward or as easy as the previous one. There are also a whole lot of explosive barrels, though. I feel it's a decent balance. You just have to pay attention. It's not difficult, but it's not exactly easy either. But yeah, as soon as the enemies come out, they split into 3 different areas. That's very deliberate, and I like that. It's super basic game design, right? But it's something. And this game doesn't always give us something. So we're gonna hold on to that. There's no point in trying to shoot these guys. They're determined to kill us via QTEs, so we'll just give them what they want. But in reverse. We just turned the bridge again, which means enemies have magically spawned outside. I was waiting for an enemy that usually rushes up the stairs toward me, but here he is. He was a little late. We accidentally picked up the shotgun somehow, and it's nice to see it again, but we need the submachine gun back. Now everything is right again. The enemies with the stun gun seem to have really poor aim. I think maybe the developers didn't properly adjust their aim in consideration of the stun gun. We have to head back toward the turret, and this time we're facing other turrets, 2 of them in 2 different positions. One of them is automated and one of them is not. This is the automated one. And over there is the manned one to our left. Enemies will sometimes flock to the manned turret. Not if we take them out before they get there. If you see any guys hanging out on the left side, it's best to kill them the earliest. There are always some enemies that linger way in the back, and they're hard to hit with the turret. So you might have guessed that even though we're done with the turret, some more enemies are still going to pop up right after we leave it. And that is the case, yes. This is a piece of design the game pulls quite often. There's always a long hallway, with enemies that appear in increments as you move forward. So, Velasco said we should head for extraction. You might figure that means we're almost done here. But we are nowhere near done here. The actual getting to extraction takes a long time. There is one final wave of enemies that appears as we get right next to the door, after these guys. And one of them will rush at you while the other 2 fill you full of bullets. But since they all come out of one position, we can just shoot at them before they get the chance. If you don't think that far ahead, then they will trap you when you'll die and you'll have to start from way back in the tower back there.